All right. My name is Danilo Guastici, and today I'm going to be talking about the conference that I went to. I was able to attend part of the NABE conference, the National Association for Bilingual Education. It was held on April 27th, 2021. The specific event title that I went to was called Biliteracy is Everyday Social Practice in Schooling, Border Walking with Biliteracy. Its audience was aimed at teachers, aspiring teachers, anyone involved in education who really has a passion for bilingual education and the promotion of bilingual education. It was presented by Dr. Barbara Flores and Dr. Esteban Diaz. Um, so I'm going to get started with a little background of the association. So what is NABE? NABE is the National Association for Bilingual Education. Like I said, the conference was aimed at teachers, aspiring teachers, educators, especially those with an interest in advocating for the expansion of bilingual education in the United States. So, yeah, there's the title of the event that I participated in. So, little introduction about the event. So, this session really focused on kind of the ultimate goal of teaching, or what should be the ultimate goal of teaching, teaching to the potential of all of our students, no matter their cultural background, no matter their first language, their home language. We really want to try to maximize the potential of all students so that everyone, has a fair shot at attaining the highest level of achievement that they possibly can. So, this is very pertinent in the United States as there's a high risk of academic failure for students who are poor, students who speak a language different from the dominant culture, which here in the United States obviously would be English, or students who have special needs. So, um, this session especially took a really interesting deep dive into what our role is as educators and how we can maximize that potential. So speaking to this high rate of failure for poor students whose home language is not English, students with special educational needs, how can we combat this? One good way is by employing bilingual teachers who have a very substantial knowledge on theoretical and pedagogical teaching and learning, strong beliefs about language, biliteracy, and culture that promote success, attitudes that are not deficit oriented, and teachers who respect the learner's cultural ways. Um, yeah, there's that slide. So, Dr. Esteban Diaz started with this really great presentation on Vygotsky's social, cultural, and socio-historical theory of human development. So I'm going to be giving a brief summary of that today, then I'm going to go over some of the points that Barbara Flores talked about, and then I'm going to wrap it up with, what I took away from it, my critical analysis of what was talked about, and moving forward, how can we use what we learned in this presentation and apply it in our classrooms? So, Vygotsky viewed human development as a socially mediated process in which children acquire their cultural values, beliefs, etc., through beliefs about language, problem-solving strategies through collaborative dialogue, especially with more knowledgeable members of society. That's where we fit in, educators. We're hopefully more educated than our students that we're teaching, not in all cases necessarily, but hopefully that's the goal. We're the ones, playing a big part in the facilitation of this development. So Vygotsky really, he viewed like I said, he viewed human development as a socially mediated process, and his theories stressed the fundamental role of social interaction in the development of cognition. So, Vygotsky's law of cultural development. why should we care about Vygotsky's theory at all as educators, right? Because he believed that culture, language, and thought, schooling, and mediation all play a very critical role in the continued development of the human race. That's a big reason why. And so, talking about his law of cultural development, what does it say? It says that any function in a child's cultural development appears twice on two different planes. That first one is a social plane. Then it appears on a psychological plane. So first it appears between people as an inter-psychological category, and then within the individual as an intra-psychological category. So, based on his law of cultural development, Vygotsky saw mind as a socio-cultural, socio-historical construction. So he said, the very mechanism underlying higher mental functions is a copy from social interactions. All higher mental functions are internalized social relationships, and their whole nature is social. So we basically construct and appropriate all of the funds of knowledge from our society, its institutions and cultural, through the people that they interact with at a given historical time. Thus, a person's not a standalone individual, but rather a collective subject. So, one brief example kind of lets you understand. My grandmother, growing up, if we were eating and I didn't finish every bite of food on my plate, if I had this little bit left of food, she would save it. She was really impacted. She grew up in the era of the Great Depression. And then my other grandmother, her current partner, is the same way. So they share these, cultural beliefs, cultural habits, and, they both, shaped by the forces that dictated our society when they were growing up. They see it as very bad to throw away food. So that's kind of how, how Vygotsky is basically saying that that humans, how we develop. So why does this matter for teachers? We are critically important to the future of both our own students and humankind. It's because we are the socio-cultural and socio-historical mediators for pretty much all human knowledge that's going to be taught to the next generation and values, and we're responsible for the continuation of the development of a human person. So, as an aspiring history teacher, I am going to be responsible for the historical development or the knowledge of historical, development for all of my students. So it's very important that I understand, what my role is in teaching. And this, I'll talk a little bit more about how this applies to bilingualism later. So the role of mediation in teaching and learning. You use tools to bridge from the known to the unknown. Mediation means that, we use these tools such as language, art, music, movement, gestures, drama, dance to we take concepts that children already know and understand, and we use those as building blocks to expand their knowledge. Mediated structures and processes are tools that embed the potential and are used as bridges to name and make knowledge visible for the learners as they come to know more information. So, in the case of written language and bilingual education, children come to know written language from their own perspectives and interpretations. So children's evolution of knowledge is based on the following four conceptual interpretations: pre-syllabic, syllabic, syllabic/alphabetic, and alphabetic. So basically, what does this all mean? Languages are learned based on need. A lot of times, if you have a bilingual student in your classroom who doesn't speak English, they're going to feel a need to, improve their English because they can't communicate as effectively as the students who might speak English. So every reader uses prior knowledge to construct meaning. along with predicting, self-correcting, and comprehending. Knowledge isn't transmitted, but rather shared and transformed. And the learner must be viewed and taught as a knowing subject capable of creating and generating that knowledge, and not treated as a passive recipient of knowledge. Children are active learners at the end of the day. So during the presentation, so that was the Vygotsky's kind of theory. And then Dr. Barbara Flores went and talked about, okay, how can we take this information and apply it in our classroom? So one thing that she talked about was interactive dialogue journals. She really went into this deep dive example of a dialogue journal for a student named Nancy. Nancy, the teacher assigned this project for the students and told students to write in their own way. Nancy's writing in the first couple slides was pre-syllabic. So it was, letters, and she wasn't able to fully write out full words in English, but she kind of could know how they sounded based on her knowledge of Spanish. And what we learned is children internalize what teachers say, and repeating exactly what they say a lot of times. So Nancy was able to catch on to English quicker because of her background in Spanish, and her control of the Spanish language, the mastery of the Spanish language, was able to help her. Although she didn't know English like a lot of the other students in her class, she was able to take her prior knowledge and understand what the teacher was teaching her, and kind of expand on it and build on her own knowledge and say, okay, I know this from Spanish. And without even saying anything, over time, doing these dialogue journals, her Spanish kept improving, which I think is really, really cool. So, we as teachers need to know how to know the potential of all our students and kind of how to mediate these social interactions. So to finish up, what role does a teacher as a sociocultural mediator play? We deliberately bridge, organize the teaching that we're doing to correspond to the way that children learn, and mediates, again, to the potential. We make knowledge visible through creating zones of proximal development and mediating through social interaction. We teach to the potential instead of the developmental level. And we deliberately mediate by using multiple tools such as talk, written language, art, music, movement, literature, drama, and dance to represent the world and how diverse the world is. And, allow students to kind of understand that. So basically what I took away from this is it's very important, as we continue to advocate for more bilingual education, it's very, very important to understand the role that we play as educators, and understand that students are not there to just be funneled information. If I have a student in my class who doesn't speak English, I can't just give her all this, oh, here's how you do English, and expect her to understand it. Rather, I should, try to understand what she already knows. Okay, she has this very extensive knowledge of Spanish. That can help a lot. That can make the transition to learning English a lot easier. But again, we have to teach up to their potential, and not to what the developmental level says.